Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Sunday, June 23rd, 2024, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Now Mind You podcast. This is episode 117, Combat. I'm your host, I'm TJ. Matt and Bryce had scheduling conflicts, but hopefully they should be back next week. As far as the docket is concerned, I'll be going over the UFC fight night that took place in Saudi Arabia, Whittaker versus Aliskerov. Then I'll give you guys my picks for UFC 303 Pereira versus Prochazka. Without wasting any additional time, right? Let's just get right into it. So, main card for Whittaker versus Aliskerov, we had at light heavyweight Johnny Walker versus Volkan. No time Uzdemir. Look, yeah, he had no time. Uzdemir caught him, I believe, with a left hook, which ended up spelling the beginning of the end. Basically, like it's crazy because Johnny Walker has the overwhelming height and reach advantage. And initially at the beginning of the first round, you would have thought that, all right, this might be it for Volkan Uzdemir if he can't breach that gap, right? But he effectively breached it and he has real KO power in his hands. Cause man, once he was connecting, he didn't stop. Caught Johnny with a left hook, wobbled and dropped him, then proceeded to continue laying on the hurt, albeit with some patience, and then ultimately caught Walker with an uppercut, and then the ref was like, I've seen enough. Uh Big win for Uzdemir. Big win for Uzdemir, right? Kind of stopped Johnny Walker's momentum. I think Walker was ranked too. Was he ranked higher at the time? Yeah, he's ranked number seven. What was Uzdemir's ranking? Because maybe it was he was number nine. So Volkan's gonna jump up in the rankings as a result of this, right? Next up at middleweight, we had Shara Bullet Magomedov versus Antonio Tricoli. Uh this was like this was kind of crazy because it felt like Tricoli had the right strategy. And one of the things that had always been in question with Magomedov had been his grappling. Despite being from Dagestan, people were like, he doesn't really have great wrestling defense. Well, he kind of proved them wrong, but there was also like an egregious fence grab, I think, in the first round. Tricoli tried to do his best to grapple and stick with him, but it ended up just being a situation where Magomedov would get up and just punish him on the feet, ultimately securing the knockout victory with like some change left in the third round. So it was like another notch, another W to add to the undefeated Dagestani's belt, right? Shah Magomedov, man, look out for him. It looks like Bo Nickel wants a piece of that action too, undefeated versus undefeated. So hopefully they might be setting that up. Um, Next up, we have Nasrat Hakparas, I mean, Kelvin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez. Okay, this is what I'm going to say. Kelvin won the unanimous decision. And I also need to mention this at the top, but like, man, prelims, main card, dude, DC, John Anik, and Michael Bisping were clowning in the commentary booth. It was crazy. But one thing that Michael Bisping kept pointing out is that Kelvin Gastelum missed weight heavy for this bout, and we would be remiss if we didn't attribute that in part to his win. Now he was dominating D-Rod. Like I mean, D-Rod had an overwhelming reach advantage, but that made no difference. Kelvin Gastelum gave him problems in every aspect of the game. Ultimately, being that he won the unanimous decision. And if you look at Daniel Rodriguez's face at the end of that bout, it was like, ooh, yeah, he got pieced up, something crazy. Moving into heavyweight, we had Sergey Waganu, Sergey Pavlovich versus Alexander Drago Volkov. We had some Russia on Russia crime. I think, well, they do have history together. They did train in the past, but like for one, Volkov is a fucking giant. Like like Sergey Pavlovich is not a small man, and Volkov made him look tiny. But for two, Volkov like has trained with this dude and has been studying tape. Like if you can survive any of Pavlovich's flurries, there's a good chance you could find a way to eke out a win over him. And man, this was a masterclass in maintaining distance, kickboxing. Um, I would say Pavlovich had somewhat of a resurgence in round three, right? He was starting to get some things together, but it's like Volkov just did the right thing, covered up where you need to cover up, survive the flurry, maintain distance, use them long ass legs, long ass arms, and bro, he basically like fucked up Pavlovich's left eye and fucked up his nose. His face was bloody. Unanimous decision win for Volkov. Good to see him get a win in the win column. Looks like he's trying to get, another run at the title too. Hey, this is gonna be quick. Main event, middleweight, Bobby Knuckles versus Ikram Aliskerov. Bro, Ikram had a lot of hype, and I'm not saying it wasn't warranted, but Bobby Knuckles took him out in the first round. Was it the up? There were a lot of uppercuts this card, man. But bro, Whittaker was on one. That's all I'm saying. Whittaker was on one. He was in super rare form. And he just starts this dude with like in less than 2 minutes. It was like he wobbled him early, and then he just went for the kill, and it was over. It was like it was over. Uh, don't ever count out Robert Whittaker. I think you put him up against Dricus Du Plessis again, it might not be the same fight. It might not be the same fight. But yeah, this card was actually not a snoozer. It was pretty good. If I had to put out which one was my favorite fight of the night, I mean, oh, Nasrat Hakparas was on this card too. Ha! We had two Kelvins fighting. I think Nasrat grew the beard out so people wouldn't keep confusing him for fucking Kelvin. But man, favorite fight. Let me look at because I saw some of the prelim fights too, and they were pretty crazy. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. Man, I got it, man. I don't like seeing people knocked out, but that Volkan Oezdemir versus Johnny Walker was pretty tight. All right, with that, let me transition into my picks for UFC 303. So on the UFC 303 main card, it opens up with Ian Machado Gary versus Michael Venom Page, MVP. MVP. All right, that's my pick. Maida Bueno Silva versus Macy Chiasson, women's bantamweight. I'm gonna go Macy Chiasson. She's big for the bantamweight division, and she gives people problems in all aspects. I'm gonna go Chiasson. Light heavyweight, we got Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze. Roman Dolidze is like a wrecking ball, but I think I'm gonna go Anthony Smith. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because if it's not someone in the top 10, top 15, I think Anthony Smith can actually give them problems, right? So I'm gonna go Anthony Smith on this one. For the co-main, we got at featherweight Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. You guys know I've been like talking about Diego Lopez ever since he came in last minute and gave Evloev problems. And we got jiu-jitsu on jiu-jitsu, but I think Diego Lopez has the better hands. Come on, he's been training with Los Lobos. I'm gonna go Lopez. Hey, I'm gonna go Lopez. And then we got Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prochazka 2 at light heavyweight title bout main event. I'm gonna go Pereira. I know Yuri Prochazka is basically the Undertaker of this division. We've seen this man come back from death, right? But I'm gonna go Pereira. All right, y'all. This concludes episode 117 Combat. Thank you all so much for listening, for sharing. Your support is appreciated. So is your engagement. You can find this podcast on any podcast distribution platform. Just look for Now Mind You Podcast. As far as social media, you always have to look for at Now Mind You Pod and damn near everything. That's NOWMINDYOUPOD. If you're looking for us on social media, you can find me on Instagram at Tuss4Skate. That's TUSS number 4_SKATE. Matt's on damn near everything at Matt Hambrick. That's MATTHAMBRIC. And of course, you can find Bryce on Instagram at Ashe Onsa. That's AXE_ONCA. With that, everyone, peace. See y'all next week.